Hello, welcome to GeoAI tutorial number 16. In this video, I'm going to show you how to train a deep learning model for detecting surface water from high-resolution aerial imagery or satellite imagery. First, I already show you the result. So this is 1 meter resolution aerial imagery from the USDA National Agricultural Imagery Program, or NAP, and it's 1 meter resolution for spectral bands. So I've trained a deep learning model for detecting surface water from this kind of imagery, and so this is the result. You can see this is the imagery. Of course, you can see it's actually the water is quite challenging. It's different color, different texture. This is a little bit challenging to do using traditional machine learning approach or using pixel based because these might belong to different classes if you're using some clustering. But using a deep learning model, we are able to actually detect the surface water nicely. And you can see this is the boundary. After we detecting the raster mass, then we convert to vector data, and it looks very smooth. There's not really the traditional salt and pepper effects from pixel-based classification approach. And it's super easy to do, just a couple lines code. And I'm going to show you from scratch how you can prepare training data, and then you can train your model or just with a couple minutes, and you have a model that's pretty decent that you can use to run inference on any USDA name imagery. So let's dive into it. First, you need to go to the GeoAI website to download the notebook example. Previously, I also has a tutorial showing you how to train a deep learning model for mapping, for example, wetlands and other type of objects. You're welcome to check out the tutorial series. And for this one, we're going to focus on just the surface water. So go to the website and then click examples, scroll down to find train water detection. So once you click, you should be able to have the notebook here. You can run using Google Colab. So make sure you change the runtime type to, change the runtime type to T4 GPU, because we need to train the model. It's going to be so much faster. Or if you have GPU on a computer and you have already installed the Geo package, you can download this notebook to your computer and then just save this one, open it in Visual Studio Code or Jupyter Lab. So I've already have this one on my computer, so I'm gonna show you from here from scratch. And let me restart the kernel just to show you step by step. The first step is to import the library. So let me zoom in a little bit. Import GeoAI package, and then we're gonna download some sample data. So I prepared the sample data. They are hosting on Hugging Face. So if you're interested in, you can go to my Hugging Face page under the Geospatial dataset, and then files and versions. Inside here, there's a NAIP. So these are all the imagery that I'm using. It's particularly this NAIP water train. Basically, the imagery we want to train the model, and the water mass is basically the labels, the mass for each water body, and we're going to use the testing imagery to test the model. So the imagery is roughly over 160 megabyte. It's decent size. It's just one single imagery, so we just can run the inference on the entire imagery. Okay, so let's just specify all this data, and then you can use the download file function to download all the data. So I've downloaded it on my computer. It's just going to skip. You can also use the print raster info function to see the metadata information. So for this particular imagery is 5,390 rows, 90 columns. So this is X, this is Y. So this is how many rows, this is how many columns. 4 spectral bands. And this is UTM projection, 1 meter resolution. You can also see some of the basic summary statistics in here if you want to. So next, let's quickly visualize the data to see what the data looks like. So we're just going to visualize the imagery, and the node data should be 0. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. Interesting. It should be 0, so it should be transparent. It was working fine earlier, not sure what's happening. Anyway, so this is just a binary mass. The white color represents the water body. The black color represents just the background. So it's basically non-water. And this is the one actually delineated using the pixel-based approach. You can clearly see some of these artifacts in here, the salt and paper effects, basically very pixelated for some smaller water bodies. It's okay, but we don't have other training data. Otherwise, you have to manually delete the training data. It's going to take some time. So this is actually I deleted using Google Sensing. It's actually one of my previous paper using GMap. So if you're interested in, you can look read my paper here. Go to the GMap website, and then there should be a reference here. So it's actually the second one. So this is the one that I published previously using Google Sensing and also LiDAR data to delineate the surface water body. And so it's pretty accurate. And the training data I want to use actually from that paper exported from Google Sensing. So this is very raster based. And next step is to also let's visualize the testing imagery. So once we train the model, we're going to test the algorithm, basically the model, to classify this imagery. Again, this is a high resolution one. It's a little bit tricky to do that, to classify the water using the other machine learning approach, because the water texture is going to be not as good as what we're going to do here in using the deep learning. Once we have the imagery and the label, the mask, then we can start creating the training data. So we're going to specify the output directory. Then all we need to just call this function like what we did in the previous tutorial is to export GeoTIFF tiles and then just passing the training data, the raster pass, and also the mask. And we're going to use the tile size 512 by 512, basically the image chips. The stripe basically is to offset the sliding window. So it's going to basically have overlap, 25% overlap between the image tiles. And the buffer, we don't really need to use buffer unless your data is like raw, only have a line, then you might want to buffer so that you can have some pixel that you can extract to create the training data. And this might take a couple minutes, depends on how big is your data set. So this one is pretty decent. So you can see the total number of image tiles going to be generated will be 2,280 image tiles. So for each image, you're going to have one corresponding labels, and then we can use this one to train the model. So I'm going to show you here on the left side. So this is the output directory. This is where I'm going to output all of those. So you're going to find the image directory. So this is where all the image tiles from the original area imagery, so one by one, and then the corresponding labels from here. So basically this is the binary water mass that I just showed you earlier. So with these two, now we can start training the model using a mass RCNN. You can just follow this instruction here. So we're just going to the input channel. So this will be 4. If you're using other imagery, it might be just 3 bands RGB, then you change this one to 3. So it depends on your input data set. Or if you're using other satellite data that has more than 3 or 4 bands, you change this one to whatever number of bands you're going to use. And then you can use other default settings, how many number of epochs you want to change, and also the base size is how many images you want to feed into your GPU for every batch. And then we're going to change just 10 epochs, but you're welcome to change more than 10 epochs. So just run this one. And this is going to take some time because we have 2,280 image chips. And so each time you're feeding 4. So you can see here the batch basically one by one. So one batch, and then you can see the loss and also the time. So ideally, you want to see the loss is decreasing, and this is a good sign. So after we finish training one epoch, we can see how good is the model. It might take a couple minutes, so just wait. And you just wait to find the model within here, the models, and it's going to create the one basically base model.pts. I have trained like 1 hour earlier, but once this one's done, you should be able to see the updating. You're going to update the modified time because each time is creating the base model. So you're going to based on the validation loss. So the loss is basically the validation. So if it's decreasing, that's a good sign. And for each base, it takes roughly 1 second. So you can see we have a total of 456 bits because each base is 4 images. So multiply by 4, you're going to get basically 2,280 image chips. So let's just wait for it to finish. Again, it might take a couple of minutes, depends on your GPU. Or you can also use my pre-trained model later. I'm going to provide to you where is that one hosted. So see, the first time, the validation IOU is 0.9074. So it's very good. So normally, I mean, for other model that I've trained, usually the first epoch, the IOU is usually like 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, but 0.9 is pretty high. So that means our model is performing pretty well. And you can see now it's saving to this one to the base model and 9 seconds ago. So basically this is the new one that's just being generated. And you can just use this one to do prediction. So you can just train a couple epochs. If you have more time, more resources, you can train a little bit longer, but you don't have to. So I think we can just use 2 epochs, then we can start doing the prediction. It will also upload a summary. So at the end, after you finish, you're going to generate the final model, and also for every epochs, 10 epochs, you're going to have save as a backup, and you can look at the training summary here. So this is the final one that I've trained earlier. The final IOU is 0.92, which is pretty high. So it's increasing from 0.90 to 0.92. So like 2 to 3% increase. So just to save some time, I'm just going to stop the training here. But let's wait for it to see the second epochs to see how much. You see, now it's 0.9104. So it's pretty, I think it's pretty good result. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the training here. And then, of course, you are welcome to basically use that to, let me just create the output for this one. And you can just use the model, so the base model, or I can use the one that previously I already trained, but I'm just gonna use this model, just 2 epochs. We just train 2 epochs, just a couple minutes. Now let's run the inference. So we're going to use the imagery, so the testing imagery, and the output result we're going to save is NAIP water prediction, and use the base model. So this run the object detection. So the parameters here, same thing, the number of channels, we're going to use 4 channels, and also the window size and the overlap, we're going to use the same as the one that earlier when we do the creating the image chips. And the confidence threshold, I use 0.3, but if you have many false positive, then you can increase the number. So it ranges from 0 to 1. The higher the number, the more selective, and the smaller number of objects you're going to get. So 0.5 to, 0.3, 0.5, 0.6, you can test it with your own data. Once you have the raster mask, I'm going to convert to vector data. So you just run this raster to vector function, and you can specify the minimum size, basically the smallest size of object. So mean area, so this one means it basically less than 1,000 pixels. So if the less than 1,000 pixels, you're going to remove that. So just run this one, and it's going to generate, okay, we have total of 81 records. That means we have 81 polygons. And by default, it's only going to have the yes or no. But we can also use the calculator add the geometry properties. So in that way, we can get other information later we can use to do the filtering. So let's just run this one. And same thing, we're going to have 81 here. Basically, we don't have to do any filtering yet. And after, just read the data interactive. So this is the outcome. As you can see, looks pretty nice. So this is just the first try. We haven't do any filtering yet. And just by look at the first look, it looks pretty good. All the major water bodies have been detected. And when you hover a mouse, you should really see all the geometry attributes. For example, the size, the length, the perimeter, the bounding box, and the orientation, elongation, all that kind of information. So certainly this is something very useful because you can use this one to do filtering. Okay, so again, I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. All right, so the next step is to maybe do some filtering. As you can see here, some of these objects is kind of confused with the water body. So this one is the tree shadows, and they are not really water body. There might be some other ones, but this one is quite obvious. As you can see here, if you turn the layer off, it's just a tree shadow. But this one is not really water body. It's not circular object, and it's very elongated. If you hover your mouse, you should be able to see the elongation value. It's 13. So if something is very long, very narrow, maybe they are not water. So you can use this criteria to filter them out. And this is what exactly why we want to calculate the geometry properties, because you can filter object based on size or based on elongation. So for example here, this one, similarly, the elongation is 12, and this one, the same thing, is just a tree shadow. But for other smaller object, it has been removed because we set 1,000 pixels earlier is the minimum size. And overall, this looks very good. I mean, it's just couple minutes, and now we have a model that we can use to run inference on any NAP imagery. So let's look at the elongation, and I'm going to show you here, right? So this is the histogram showing you that the elongation, most of them is less than 6 or 7 or something like that, and there are a couple outliers. So these are the one that's actually not water bodies, and we can use GeoPandas, just GeoPandas elongation less than 10, for example. So I'm going to exclude these objects that are very elongated, not likely to be water body, and just run this one. Now we have 79. So compared to 81, so we remove 2 objects. Exactly is this one here, and also this one here. So in that way, we have a much better result compared to just accept everything. All right. So last step, let's visualize the final result. And this is the one after we do the filtering. Again, I can zoom in here. Now those 2 elongated shape objects has been eliminated. And what we have right now is the real water bodies. And you can also have your mouse, you can still see all the attributes. So in this way, you can calculate, for example, what's the total area in this area, or it may be the number of water bodies, number of lakes, or something like that. Super easy. And you can apply this one to other area imagery or high resolution satellite data. You can also apply this on time series images, so you can keep track of the changes of the surface water dynamics. And this is just a single data layer, but if you want to compare them side by side, you are also welcome to run that using the split map. Okay, so this one is usually better when you're trying to compare the classification result with the original data. So look at this. When you have your mouse, you should be highlighted in yellow. Okay. There's some missing one here. This one is missing, kind of a smaller water body, because maybe we set the threshold too high, set 1000. Maybe you can decrease to 500 or a couple hundred, and that smaller water bodies might be included. But I think overall, I'm pretty satisfied, happy with the results, and so much better compared to using other traditional algorithm, because it's very challenging. You can deal with different water textures, different colors, and especially inside, it's not very homogeneous. If something looks like this, and it's going to be look very pixelated when you get the result, and a lot of salt and paper effect that you have to clean up after this. But using deep learning, it's very nice. It's all smooth, and you're welcome to adapt this one to detect other objects as well. Okay, so that's all for this tutorial. I hope you find it useful. I will see you in the next one.